Hello everyone, this is Defacto Review. We highlight 3 important events of last week happened in Mongolia, which may impact on the way how we live. This review is with me, Jargal Tampadarja, and I introduce you today 3 topics. 1, Mongolia is out of the grey list completely, but not from corruption. Second, the party candidates list, that's the target of many racing during these days. Third, a time to make turning in the capital market of Mongolia. These are 3 topics I would like to share with you my thoughts. First, about this grey list and corruption. There is an organization called APG, Asia Pacific Group, on anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism. This is FATF affiliated member, regional member, where Mongolia is a member. FATF is the Financial Action Task Force that leads global action to tackle money laundering, terrorists, and proliferation financing. So Mongolia is a long time a friend with the organization, and this time in Vancouver, July 9th to 14th, there was this APG group meeting where Mongolia was kind of defending our follow-up report, 6th follow-up report. You know, years back, 4 or 5 years ago, we were in the grey list because we have not completed 6 of 40 advices, recommendations of these organizations on this field of money laundering and countering financing of terrorism. So this follow-up report was defended by a large team of Mongolia, headed by the Deputy Justice Minister, Mrs. Solongo, but they and with Financial Regulatory Commission, Justice Ministry, Mongol Bank, Central Bank, General Prosecutor, and General Tax Authority, and General Intelligence Agency. So they were there, and they have been approving or defending on what Mongolia has done in this regard. And out of the 40 actually recommendations, 39 recommendations we were completed for the last few years, and only 1 remaining was about the non-profit organizations' transparency. Mongolia made changes in regulations here. Now NGOs, non-profit organizations are to declare their financial report and also operational report every year. And hopefully it will be implemented in the way they have represented there. And Mongolia is becoming one of the first countries in Asia to completely meet the 40 recommendations of FATF. But however, it doesn't mean that we have completed the corruption. Why? Because corruption, a part of the corruption itself is kind of a type of money laundering. Of course, if you find 7 billion MNT in one house, that's money laundering. If you find, for example, the person, former general manager of the city, former parliament member Badam Jona, who was arrested as a bird, there is a bird actions here, as a bird in the Philippines. They have brought him a few months ago, and he was supposedly to extend his stay by the Sukbata district first step court, initial court, for another 1 month, his arrest. But after 2 days after this announcement, his advocate asked that the same court to release him on bail, etc. Release him, and he was released just a day before Nadam. Usually all this kind of stuff is happening in Mongolia just before Nadam because people forget everything during this Nadam and the other 2 weeks afterwards. So that's one of clear case where we are not yet completed with the corruption. The third is, for example, case is Mr. Ittenbillig, who is on the run, who is the head of the largest commercial bank, TDB, and he was freed with a collateral of 3 billion MNT. He asked for 2 weeks to go for health reasons abroad, and now it's already 5 months he's not back. And all these court cases, because the absence of the main person, not only him, but there are several other 20 or so people related to this file, they're all postponed until he's coming back. That's a very classic example in Mongolia how to avoid court system. And most probably these people are waiting for the next election when their old good times coming back with the newcomers to the power. So nevertheless, Mongolia still, we are deep in the corruption. In spite of revealing many corruption cases by the cabinet, Prime Minister Oyun-Ertin and his team revealing a lot of corruption cases, but all goes to the court through prosecutor. But basically almost nobody is punished now. So what the law is about if it is not enforced, that's the people wondering. Because we cannot enforce the law, corruption is continuing on, and the whole state is working for a few corrupt officials. That's what is general understanding of people, and that's people cannot do anything so far. So let's see what will happen. Anyway, we are out of this gray list, but we are still deep in the corruption. That's our first topic. Second topic is about political parties' candidates list racing. That racing is happening even better than, or even worse, or almost the same as like horse racing during Nada. Because many people are so busy with their attempts to be listed in political party list of candidates. Why? Because according to new constitutional amendments, now we have not 76 seats as before. From the next election, our parliament will have 126 seats. 78 of them will be elected by majoritarian system. 48 will be proportional system. For the first time, we made in constitutions that the Mongolians' laws, elections will go on by the mixed system, trying to have more trying to have political parties more institutionalized. Because we have 38 political parties for 3.4 million people and only 2.2 million voters. It's a lot. And some political party has maybe simply one member or 500 probably. We have 38 political parties, and those political parties have to make the political system from July 1st next year. So it's going to be a very interesting picture because we had 76 constituencies. Now we'll have 2 more constituencies, which thankfully is coming to Ulaanbaatar city, where half of the population lives. And we have only 76, 1/3 of the votes belong to Ulaanbaatar city. The rest is to other IMACs. But now this time, it is not 50% again, but however, 2 additional constituencies are coming to Bayin Zurg district and Sangin Harkhan district, the largest 2 districts in Ulaanbaatar. So 78 candidates will be by each political party there. At least 39 or half of these constituencies to be filled by whatever political party is there. Why? Because all political parties to put at least half of the constituencies candidates that trying to exclude one man party to be a parliament member. Because a political party should have more members, many members, and there are only 1,000 members, political parties still registered in Mongolia. Now what's happening was these political parties, if it goes alone, first you have 39 candidates, okay? Second, if you have 4% of actual voters, not total voters, in your constituencies, then you have a one seat in the parliament, at least 4. They may have a coalition, but if they have a coalition, then it should be, if 2 parties coalition, it should be 5%. 3 and more should be 7% of the voters, which is a quite threshold. So in that way, they're trying to avoid just one person show. So that's one thing. But the other interesting subject here is each political parties not only put a person in the constituencies, but they will have 48 candidates. They will put big parties 48 candidates. But the list is to be announced to public before the election. And this list is to go male, female, or female, male, etc., in that balance, 1-to-1. But now, those who is sure that due to many reasons, maybe reputation, maybe corruption, maybe a mining license, those guys want to be in the list of the party as much as possible above, because nobody is going to go to 48 names. Now, plus, it's physically impossible to have all the list of all these political parties' candidates' name. It will be over 600. It will be many pages of lists. That's why the final decision is to have the list first announced to the public. Second, just vote by the political party. So you go there, you make 2 selections. One is out of the 76 what you want. In your constituency, there will be at least 38, I don't know, 20, 30, 10 candidates, and you select one of them. Secondly, there will be political party names. You also circle that. So 2 votes everybody is giving there. So based on that, how many, say, People's Party have 10 seats, 10 seats, then they will take the first 10% of the list. So that's why now everybody is trying to be in the list. Now the price probably for each piece is going to be up and up. At least it was 600 million MNT per person for last elections. And this year they announced that the cost will be twice less. That meaning that 300 million MNT is a price for each candidate in the list. So each political party is going to make, 48 multiplied by 300 million. So it's one thing. The other thing is, like before, People's Party had a history of planning to raise 60 billion MNT by selling certain positions. That secret conversation voice was revealed, and some people have lost their jobs in political career. So that's one. The second thing is now people, they say, at least the news.mn website, it was said that the former president Batpolga is buying the political parties, which is listed rather above. There are 38 political parties in Mongolia, as I said. It will be first People's Party, second Democratic Party, the third is Civic Will and Green Party. And that party, if it is sold, according to this website, it will cost a lot of money, much more, billions of MNT, rather than those 38 political parties in the list. Really, in fact, nobody is going to go down to find your own party. That's why they are challenged to how to make the list. Where is the law to make this list? And because the 2 large political parties don't want to change their sequences. So that's another challenge. Again, all that shows that Mongolia still face an issue of money elections. Third topic is about capital market. Last week, as you know, we have 16 or so commercial banks, and there is a new law, of banking law, which requires to be IPO each bank. And more than that, by the end of this year, there should not be more than 5, there should not be less than 5 owners of a commercial bank. That means one has to have not more than 20% of the shares in the commercial bank. So in order to have more clear picture, they made IPO now. But however, the commercial banks, large commercial banks made IPO, but only from 5 to 10%. And it is very interesting to say that we are a public company when you are sold only 10% of your shares. You know, there was a law before that at least should be 15%. But somehow they changed the banking law. In the banking law, they can be 10% initially. Now, the banking sector has a big challenge because within now 6 months, all commercial banks to fulfill that requirement, whether Mongolia has this amount of money to have. So most probably it will be kind of close the selling of the shares. Because on one side we have certain value of the bank, at least way to start the calculation. Probably they are working on changing that law, which will amendment this law, which will meet a lot seriously by the parliament members. Because they made a law, and the result of which they wanted to see before the next election, which is coming next year. So in case, if they don't change the law, if the requirement is still staying, that by the end of this year, each commercial bank should have at least 5 owners, then it will be a very difficult situation where really there is to sell it somehow. If they don't sell it, the shares, it's going to have a kind of violation of law, which may cause losing their license even. So Mongolian banking sector is going to face this challenge in 6 months from now. Other challenge we have is almost all commercial banks had own broker company or securities company. Even in 2014, they amended the banking law and they have separated the banking businesses from those businesses. And what they have done, the owners have taken for example, TDB Bank and TDB Capital, which was under. Now 2014 is separate, but it belongs to the same person. The same with the Highligths Bank. So one person sitting on the left side bank, on the right side the securities investment company, broker or dealer. So this is to be somehow restricted because it is just on the paper restriction. But actually, it is the same person who is running all these businesses. As a result, out of 56 or so, say, brokerage companies' total transactions, 80% belongs to the securities companies belong to the owner of another commercial bank. So our Financial Regulatory Commission to work on that, really to make not this cosmetic changes, because it's for the sake of not having insider trading. The last week's scandal was because the Han Bank owner, 40% owner, Tavanbog company, it has also Tavanbog Securities, and that securities got some 20% of the shares of Han Bank, which was on May 1st on capital market first time IPO is made. But in 2 days, one of the underwriters, assistant underwriter company, because the first underwriting company was BC Deck, the underwriting second company was the own company, Tavanbog Securities. And the owner of that company, executive director of that company announced after 2 days as the secondary market started, he announced that, we have 36% of profit on the sales of our shares. And another company, Ashid Investment, but Puref, a person put on the social media that, look, this is pump and dump action, which is forbidden in the capital market developed nations. So as a result, all these comments, they went to the Fair Competition Agency. Their complaint went to there, and we are watching what will be their reaction. It's true that also last week, coincidentally, the head of that anti-monopoly and customer protection agency head was resigned. So we have a lot of things to do in terms of developing capital market properly in Mongolia. And first of all, our concern really is to stop all this insider trading and not to protect customers and other minority shareholders, which was very poorly happened in Mongolia in terms of protection of minority shareholders. So I say it because it's a principal issue for further development of capital market, which we need in order to decrease banking interest rate in Mongolia. So this is my third topic, and today I have shared with you 3 topics comment. One is Mongolia is out of grey list, but not out of the corruption. Second, there is candidates racing for listing in the political party for the next election. And the third is we need to turn Mongolian capital market. Thank you very much for being with us on this review, and see you next week. Thank you.